Hey guys, welcome to part 4 of our blister repair series. So we're here at Rebuk Island Marina in Malaysia, and we've opened an absolute can of worms as we discover that the centerlines of both hulls are covered in blisters, as well as some other large areas that we'll talk about in this episode.
I wouldn't have picked that up without the moisture meter.
It's a bit of a roller coaster this week as we finally get some glass back onto the boat.
Unroll one, unroll.
We find that other parts of the boat are going from bad to worse. Anyway, let's get right into it, and make sure you subscribe if you're new here and enjoy crazy boat projects.
Okay, so here's a classic example of what we've been finding. There were blisters here, so we took the fiberglass down, just 1 or 2 layers. It ended up like this one. So I was just tapering the edges here to make sure that we could get a nice bit of glass on there. But on this one, I was still picking up moisture on the moisture meter. So I went deeper, deeper, deeper. Then ended up finding this huge void in behind the fiberglass here, and little bits of water were spraying out. And then just next to it here, I was getting moisture as well. So I went deeper, and there's like dry fiberglass here, which also looks like the resin hadn't cured properly or something. And then there's moisture in that as well. So I wouldn't have picked that up without the moisture meter. So an invaluable tool. It's to be used as a guide, but in this situation it really helped me locate this water and uncured resin in this big void. So we're gonna fill all of that, and we're so deep here, probably like 6 to 8 layers of glass needed there, only like 4 down here. But I'm going to keep going because it's still moist until we just get back to dry glass. So what looks like a couple of blisters turns out to be a whole lot of defects inside the fiberglass causing that. This isn't anywhere near where we've done any repairs, and there's no blisters around here, just here. The way that they make boats like this is they have a mold, and then they lay the gel coat inside that mold so that when they pop it out of the mold, the fiberglass on the outside has already got this beautiful finished surface. There's absolutely nothing they need to do to that, just maybe a bit of wax and a spit shine. But then they lay all the fiberglass on top of that, and in this boat's case, balsa core, and then they put the glass on top of the balsa core so that there's a sandwich. Here looks like it's solid glass. From here looks like there's balsa core, and then they bag it up with plastic and they infuse it with resin. So you literally have to have these huge drums, and they catalyze it. They put the MEKP in there. This is polyester resin, this boat, and they vacuum bag it, and the vacuum just pulls the resin through the entire boat. But the boat's so huge that they would have had to do it in sections. So yeah, once they infuse all that resin, there's no way that they can see inside the glass to see how it all went. So we are finding little voids and cavities and uncured glass and all sorts of stuff as just part of that process. There's no way of checking that once it's been done. You can still see water seeping out. So I'm just going to keep going until it's bone dry, and then we'll look at throwing some fiberglass up. So the guys are doing this. We're trying to get this bow glassed in, and again, I mentioned this the other day, but there's a clear difference between the glass from here upwards and here down. Here down is where all the blisters were, and you can still see little droplets of water forming on the hull there. But everything from here up is perfect. No moisture. It's a really nice solid looking layer of fiberglass. There's a textured layer of glass in the middle of the layup here. We're taking it down to that one because you can sort of see the difference there, so we can stop, and we know that's probably about 2 layers of glass. So we're going to replace that with 2 layers of glass and epoxy, which is stronger. Below the waterline, we're not even going to bother with gel coat. We're just going to go with epoxy, and then on top of that we'll put more epoxy, which is in the form of the barrier coat that Total Boat have sent us, and then lastly the anti-foul. And then the stuff above the waterline, like over here, we're just going to stick to polyester. This is drying out. This is where all that water came out of the bow. We'll stick to polyester and then gel coat and fair it and get it all nice above the waterline. So big difference. And you don't have to be all pedantic about your fairing job below the waterline. As long as it's nice and flat, there's no point wasting time and resources trying to get it perfectly faired like that. Just get it nice and flat, make sure there's a lot of glass under there like we're about to do, and then you're good to go. If you've only just tuned in and playing a bit of catch up, we found blisters on the boat. Very small ones, but all the way along the center line of the boat. And then some parts, especially on the port side, we can attribute to the shitty materials that we used in Guatemala. Just whatever was available to us at that time, we thought it would be okay. But obviously, below the waterline, some blisters have formed. We spoke to Andy from Boatworks today, who's been doing this for decades, and he said, you know, any one of those batches of resin or a gel coat that we used could have just not been very good and just not cured fully, and that's often the cause of blisters. But all of the rest of the boat is not attributed to that. But yeah, we're basically rebuilding the whole hull along the center line here to get rid of all of that moisture and fiberglass defects. That's where we're at.
So instead of drying the boat out, waiting months for all the moisture to come out, we have decided to just grind out all the moist fiberglass so that we can almost immediately start rebuilding the boat and get sailing again. The quality of the fiberglass was also questionable where the blisters were, as you have seen from the last couple of episodes, which is another reason we want to grind it all out and start from scratch rather than dry out the existing glass. But on the port side, where we found some damp balsa core dating back to the hurricane damage days, we have opened up the fiberglass and are drying out the balsa core in a tent with a dehumidifier running 24/7. We also enclosed the rudder, which was reading wet as well, but I'm going to open up the other one this episode to see why they are both reading moist. Almost immediately, the dehumidifier started pulling water out of the tent, so I was confident it would dry the balsa out in no time.
Okay, this is our first proper bit of fiberglassing we're about to do. This whole portside bow is completely dry. We checked it with the moisture meter. We've gone down 2 layers of glass on the entire center line and 3 layers where we're down to this sort of foam mat that they use, and then 4 layers when we've gone down to the balsa wood. So yeah, this is completely ready to glass. We've marked up both sides for our glassing schedule, and hopefully we get the entire length done down to the transducer there before it kicks off. We're using Total Boat epoxy. We've got 1708 glass. It's got like a chop mat on the back side, and then this biaxial glass on the outside. We're going to wipe it all down with acetone before we even start. Well, we've got the slow cure hardener that we're going to mix with it. It's a 2-to-1 ratio, and a bit of a race against the clock here. If we muck around for too long, it's going to start kicking before we get that next layer of glass. The reason we want to do it all in one hit is that it'll get a chemical bond between the layers. I think the key to this was that there's 0 moisture left in there. There's no point letting it dry any further. It's dry. So some of the couch fiberglass guys will say we've got to let it dry for a few months. There's no point doing that. We've taken off enough glass to be able to just put new glass on. If it was still wet and we didn't want to do all this hard work grinding, we've chosen the hard way, but the quicker way. We could sit on our ass for a few months, let it dry out, and then just basically add no glass, but we want to get back in the water. And we're going to end up with a better product. It's going to be a epoxy reinforced hull, and there will never ever be another blister on this hull after we're done with it. Everyone's got their own technique, but we've resorted to going with like an A to Z schedule. And then if it needs 2 layers, then this is just A2. So we're going to cut A1 and then A2. That's going to get 2 extra layers underneath the 2 that the whole center line is going to get. B just gets 1. So we'll just put 1 nice circular piece in there. And then there's going to be 2 big sheets over that whole area. And then the 1708 is a convenient 1 meter in width. So we're just going to do 1 meter sections, and we're going to stagger them. That's just how we do it. Makes sense to us.
So Jamie and I have been glassing together on and off for about 7 years, but not only on Parlay, but other hurricane damaged boats as well, including a Fontaine Peugeot, where we took a mould off another boat and completely rebuilt the transom of the damaged boat. So we have done our fair share of time rolling around in resin. But we have had 2 awesome workers from Yacht Supply Malaysia helping us out here, who I'm sure know how to fiberglass, but we had a little toolbox meeting anyway to make sure that all of us were on the same page.
We've got Aziza and Wok. They already know how to glass, but we're gonna just go through the game plan of how Parlay likes to do it. So first of all, I've never used this stuff before, but this is epoxy fairing from Total Boat. So we're just gonna mix on some cardboard equal parts, and we're just gonna fill up all the little holes. So we wipe with acetone, and then we fill. So we don't need too much. But then even things like here, you know, where the foam is, we just put some filler there, but nice and flat. We just go through this whole thing, and those 2 repairs over there. And then you want to mix the resin, so it's 2 to 1. 2 part A, 1 part B. We're going to use a lot of resin, so we normally make a big one, but then we split it up. So we put some in the tray, we put some in another container, because when it's all together, it becomes hot, and we've got a lot of glass to do. And then over here, we're gonna wet the piece before. Then we roll it up. It's big pieces, you know, 1 meter by 800. Put it up, roll it. We're gonna do A, and then B, and then C, and then D here, then E, and then we're gonna go back and do F, G, H, I, J, K. So we're gonna stagger. Once we start, we have to keep going. Everything is here. It's in the opposite order. See, that's K. So I'll turn it over now, and we will have A on the top.
So the first step in any glassing job is to make sure that the hull is clean and free of contaminants, so we gave her a good old wash with some acetone. Remember that it was only the glass down the center line that was defective and blistered, so we'll make sure that we get a solid couple of layers of new fiberglass connecting up the existing good fiberglass on the hulls.
Safety first around here. I'll put on a few gloves. When it gets a little bit too out of control, you just rip off the pair and you got a fresh pair underneath.
How does it feel to be doing fiberglass yet again?
Feels good. The grinding wasn't the fun part. This is the fun part. This is when you actually feel like you've really accomplished something.
Are you proud of your glassing schedule?
Yeah, it's going to be super strong. Keep saying it. Stronger than factory. Ice cream. Don't mix yet. Put it next to it. Perfect. This is just for all the little voids and the imperfections in the manufacturing process. If we just glass over that, there'll be an air bubble there, and it can make a bigger air bubble under our glasswork. Then you've got to grind the whole lot out. So we always just go through with a fine-tooth comb and get all of those little holes filled. Once he does the filler, we can glass straight over that while it's wet. If we filled yesterday, we would have to grind that back and then glass over it. So if you do it just while everything's wet, it all chemically bonds to each other. As soon as he's done the first bit, it's action. Just nice thin layer across all of this. I'll do the first mix. We're gonna go through so much epoxy. So I feel really good about having taken all of that old shitty glass off, putting some fresh epoxy on. All right, okay. Part B. No turning back now. Press the side, press the bottom. You don't want to change state too much. Like that. Unroll one. Unroll. Okay, hold it. Yeah. Unroll.
So everything was going great so far, and we quickly realized that the 4 of us made an excellent team.
It's got to come to me a bit.
While 3 people were glassing, there was always someone mixing up the next batch of resin for the boys. The whole session was going to be overhead, with the glass wanting to fall off the hull at any moment, so it was crucial that everyone was on their A game. We pretty much always wet the cloth out before laying it up, But when you do that, the fiberglass can easily stretch when it's saturated with resin. So we try to unroll it nicely to avoid that.
Okay, don't stretch, don't stretch. Yep, that's good.
We then use the old air roller, which does two things. It helps get rid of any air bubbles in the laminate, but also squeezes out any excess resin in the layout, which not only reduces the weight, but actually results in a stronger laminate as well.
This next one's a big one.
Glad you got 4 people.
Yeah. Okay, ready? Hold slowly.
On some of the bigger pieces, we were struggling not to stretch the edges, but never fear, that's nothing that a quick snip can't fix.
This one of the hotter places you've glassed in? Same as all the other places we've been. Guatemala, Panama, Florida. Haven't glassed in a cold place yet.
We're thinking about doing a raw and unedited episode of one of our glassing sessions for you guys, showing how stressful this really can be.
A little dry.
So let us know in the comments if that's something you'd like to see.
Happy?
Yeah, it's good. Look how solid that is. Good result. Morning guys, so the epoxy cured, rock solid, that is super strong. So now we just have to go around and buzz these edges here. That's more glass than there was originally. So we just have to get that down level. The bones of it is now really structurally sound. And it's epoxy, so it's stronger, but water will never get through that again, especially with the barrier coat on top of that. So that's a job well done. That's one of the bows done, so we can work on the other side today. And we've still got the balsa areas drying here. We just put the moisture meter on it, and after 24 hours of being in this really dry space, most of them are already dry. So that's working out well. The dehumidifier is down to 34% now, and there's just water constantly coming out the drain hose here. So really dry in there. So these two repairs look super solid. Yeah, we're good. So again, we're gonna just take that edge down, because there was so much glass to put in here. We've ended up slightly maybe high here and low here. So we'll just buzz that down and put some more glass in the low spot here. We just want to get the shape of that hull back. You can just see when you look at it from a side angle, you see a bit of a hollow here and a hump there. So yeah, this just needs a tiny bit more work. And then if there's a bit of imperfections after that, we can just use that 2-part epoxy filler before the barrier coat goes on, just so that it's beautifully round like that.
So the fun fiberglassing was over, and we all got back onto the grinders in the blistering Malaysian heat, which I can assure you is up there with some of the worst jobs you can do on a boat. The YSM boys started knocking off all the anti-foul as well, so that we could check the rest of the hulls with the moisture meter, but we weren't too worried about it as there was absolutely no blisters anywhere else on the boat.
Oh, there they all go.
The guys were smashing out the hulls, so I took a moment to investigate the rudders a little further. It looked like most of the moisture was in the front of the rudder stock, so I decided the quickest and easiest way to get the water out was to cut the whole thing open. There was water trapped between the foam and the glass, and I could also see that the foam had pulled itself away from the fiberglass at the leading edge, which significantly compromised the strength of the rudder. We didn't actually have any blisters on the rudder, and the only way we knew there was water inside it was from the moisture meter, so we would have been none the wiser if we hadn't removed the anti-foul and put the meter on it. It makes you wonder how many boat owners are sailing around oblivious to this sort of internal damage on fiberglass boats, just as we probably have been for years without knowing it. As I continued the investigation, I found more water trapped between the foam and the glass, so I was starting to get nervous about how much rudder there would even be left if I kept going. I needed to find out where the water was getting in, so I decided to drop the rudder to check around the bearing, as there was no damage visible on either rudder. Last time I did this, the stainless steel bolts were completely stuck inside the tiller round. So when I reinstalled them, I put a ton of Tef gel on, as they are dissimilar metals, and thankfully they came out with ease this time round. Then there are a couple of pins holding the rudder up, which came out easily, so within about 10 minutes I had the rudder dropped.
Yeah, baby!
By then, the boys had ground out all the damaged glass on the starboard bow, so I had to put the rudder job on hold for the time being. We also wanted to put a little bit more glass onto the port side, where I felt like it ended up a little bit too thin. We then proceeded to cut all the glass, taking note of the order of every piece that was about to go up.
Okay, so we're gonna glass the starboard bow. Sorry about that noise. There's these cicadas or something in the woods here. Very high-pitched squeal. So here we've come right down to the final layer of glass. This is literally one layer of glass. It's actually 3 little pinholes where it's gone all the way through. So we'll have to fill this as in. So you saw the process last time. We're doing the same thing. Before we started grinding, I drilled a hole. Oh. And I saw how thick it was. It's about 10 layers thick. So because we're down to the last layer of glass here, we're going to end up doing 10 layers. We're going to match the thickness, but we're going to go with epoxy, so it's going to be stronger. But so much glass is needed to build this up. And then we're going to run 2 strips all the way down the center line. And then we're going to do 2 big wraps like we did there. I just feel a little bit better about that. So on our port side, we're going to add 2 more strips just right down that center line. That's what's going to, like, if you hit a log or something, that's what's going to take the impact. And then all that purple stuff you see over there, those are just slightly low spots. So we're just going to throw bits of glass in there. Once we grind that back, it'll be pretty much done, ready to put barrier coat on. We are going to treat this bow repair separately because it's a major, again, 10 layers of glass here. And you can see we've gone right down to the last layer. That was just to get all of that moist glass out of there. This is bone dry now. So again, no point in waiting. I don't know what you'd be waiting for. It's dry, it's ready to go. It's washed with acetone. And we're gonna do this with polyester because it's above the waterline and we want a gel coat finish. We don't want to put gel coat on top of epoxy, but you can put epoxy on top of polyester, which is what gel coat is. So this whole piece here will be polyester. And then we'll link what we're doing today up to that, below the waterline, with epoxy. So this is going to be super strong. I feel really good about that. So yeah, same process as last time. Let's roll the music.
Well, there you go guys, it's finally starting to feel like we're making some progress. And I even get a chance to show you my fuel polishing system next week, as we have a tank full of diesel bug that we have been too busy to address. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hit the old subscribe button if you're new here, and we'll see you at the same time next Sunday. Cheers guys.